Well, good morning. We'll call the Pennington County Commission meeting for December 20th, 2016 to order. We'll stand for a moment of silent reflection. Pledge of Allegiance led by Scott Guffey.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is to review and approve the agenda. Does anyone have any changes they wish to make to the agenda?
Mr. Lindell, we do have a presentation beforehand, if we could do that first, sir? Or do we do the... Okay, I messed up. Okay, sir.
Do I
need a second?
I think you meant, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to take another run at it. Does anyone have any changes they wish to make to the agenda? If not, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is to introduce new employees. Lisa?
Good morning, Commissioners. Lisa Clendenin, Human Resources Generalist. Today I have 9 new employees to come up and introduce themselves to you, and I'll have them do that now.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Shannon Rigsby. I'm a new hire with the Pennington County State's Attorney's Office. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you.
State's attorney's happy.
You brought your mom along?
Good morning. My name is Penny Wedge, and I also work in the State's Attorney's Office, Legal Secretary.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Katrina Williamson. I was also hired at the Pennington County State's Attorney's Office as a legal secretary.
Welcome.
Good morning, Kate Ackerson, Pennington County State's Attorney's Office, Legal Secretary.
Good morning. I'm Cindy Chapman, new hire for Buildings and Grounds, and in the construction management position, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Morning, Commissioners. Jared Tomac, new Deputy State's Attorney with State's Attorney's Office.
Hi, Lexi.
Alexis Kling, Register of Deeds, started on Monday.
Morning. My name is Jesse Perigo. I'm in the IT department, and I'm an IT specialist too, I believe. Thank you.
Yep.
Good morning. My name is Amalia Hertel. I'm a new hire in the IT department, and I am an IT specialist.
Thank you. Welcome to each of you, and we wish you well. Thanks for being here. Okay, the next item is your turn.
My turn?
Adcock.
All right. I was so excited. We'd like to do a recognition of Commissioner Troutman and Commissioner Peterson and Fire Administrator Denny Gorton today. And on behalf of Pennington County, we'd like to take this opportunity because of your commitment, your leadership, and dedication to public service to give you a heartfelt thank you to Commissioner Nancy Troutman, Commissioner Lindell Peterson, and Fire Administrator Denny Gorton. Now we'll have a few presentations if Commissioner Troutman, Commissioner Peterson, and Fire Administrator Gorton would please come to the podium, please.
Let us go down there.
Yes, ma'am. You're gonna get roasted. Just kidding. Okay. Now Steve can stand over here. This is the surprise. First, we'll have a few words from Commissioner Peterson.
It's my understanding that my job is to present an award to Denny Gorton. And it's a privilege to be the presenter in this case because it's quite an honor to represent people relative to the career of Denny Gorton. These days we hear a lot about a legacy. And if you said, what is a legacy? My interpretation would be that when you started and when you finished, what's in between and what you left when you finished is your legacy. That's fair. Then we look at Denny Gorton and say, your legacy is a modern, well-trained, well-equipped firefighting network that is ready, ready, ready. Did you do it alone? Absolutely not. You and all the firefighters would say we did it together, side by side. And this is one of those situations where there's no real stopping point when you talk about a career like Denny's. But I believe that the item that's being presented is so unique that it truly represents the career of Denny Gorton. So Holly and Buildings and Grounds are responsible for this presentation.
I'm not speechless very often. Thank you. Adele, thank you.
This might fall out, Nancy.
This is the head of the Fireman's Acts. Denny. Collaboration between fire department that furnished the.
You know, I don't know what to say other than wow and thank you. Believe me, it's been 27 years with the county, and the things that Lindell said would absolutely not be possible if 40 years ago this county commission had the foresight to hire the first county fire administrator. And I've been privileged to be the fourth one, and Jerome Harvey is going to be the fifth one. So working with 500 volunteer firefighters who have nothing but the highest professional standards there could be, it's just been a true honor, and working with the commission for 27 years has been my pleasure. So I've enjoyed working with all the department heads, and I'm going to miss all of you, but if you see me kind of sneaking around the hallways now and then, it's probably just me, so don't get worried. I might come over and see Brian once in a while, so. But thank you very much. I don't know what else to say, so thank you. Yeah? Oh, you want to see it?
We're gonna miss you, Danny.
So I'm next. I get to present to Miss Nancy.
Absolutely.
Miss Nancy was on the board that hired me, so I have a special place in my heart for this lady. she is being presented with this plate, and I would like to read the back of it that says, "From the smallest project to the largest undertaking. Thank you for your diligence and commitment to the citizens of Pennington County." Presented to Nancy Troutman, Pennington County Board of Commissioners, 2007 through 2016.
Okay, Miss Nancy, we're not through with you yet. Next, we have Scott Guffey from the Natural Resources Director, our Natural Resource Director. Thank you, Scott. And some of your cohorts, Nancy.
Yeah, I got some help with me today. We do have a plaque, but I do have some members of the Mountain Pine Beetle Working Group. We have Dave Mertz. He's the Natural Resources Staff Officer for the Forest Service, the Supervisor's Office. We got Ben Woodkeek with the Black Hills National Forest Resource Association. He represents the timber industry. And then we have Greg Josen. He's our state forester for the state of South Dakota. They got a few words to say in appreciation of all the dedication that Nancy's done.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here today, and I want to thank Nancy for everything that she's done for the Black Hills National Forest. She's almost always been at our meetings. I don't know that she had to. She did it because she wanted to. She's been shown so much passion for the forest and a real willingness to learn as well, and I've appreciated that. And I told her to not be a stranger. She can still come around, and we will be glad to see her. So thanks.
Nancy, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you in our local collaborative groups and getting to know you on our trips to Pier. I also wanted to send a very special thank you for all of your efforts in promoting the health of our forests and the health of our communities as well. We really appreciate it with our association, as does the community. Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you in the future.
Nancy, thank you. Thanks for everything you've done for the Mountain Pine Beetle Working Group, for forest health in South Dakota, for the Black Hills. If you've ever heard Nancy talk about the importance of partnerships, it's an opportunity to listen to her passion for the importance of working together in order to make things happen. And that has been extremely valuable, and it always has been kind of a guide for the Mountain Pine Beetle Working Group. You know, it was a diverse group of people, but we all had a common goal. And Nancy helped keep us on the right track so that we could do the best work that was possible. Thank you, Nancy, and look forward to continuing our partnership with Pennington County and with these wonderful people here. So thanks again, Nancy.
So back in 2010, Forest Supervisor Bob Zine called together a conservation leaders meeting to deal with the ever-growing mountain pine beetle epidemic in the Black Hills. And at the time, there was a number of county commissioners from all the counties within the Black Hills that attended that meeting. And since that time, by far, Nancy has attended and done more than any other commissioner within the Black Hills on this pine beetle epidemic. She's attended a number of our working group meetings, provided a great point of view as a commissioner on developing a strategy on dealing with the epidemic. She's gone to Pier a number of times, dealing with the legislation and getting money back to the counties and the states. So much so that she became known as the Bug Lady, affectionately. And we got a plaque made by, it's a special piece of wood. It's actually Black Hills ponderosa pine that's been killed by pine beetle. Probably came from Pennington County, but I can't say for sure. And it came from one of our pine beetle cutters. He started up with a small sawmill out of his shop and donated this piece of wood to us. It's pretty neat. It's got the blue stain on there. On the rough stock edge, you can actually see the galleries from the pine beetle larvae. And it's even got a pine borer hole in it from after the tree's dead. So, and it says, in appreciation of your dedication and leadership on the mountain pine beetle and forest health issues within the Black Hills region 2010 through 2016, Nancy Troutman, Pennington County Commissioner, AKA the Bug Lady. Turned out really nice.
Thanks, guys.
That's just one of our case one blocks of wood. You've probably seen those. Yeah, well, those are, the Black Hills National Forest actually had the very first timber sale in the whole Forest Service back, I think, in 1899. So that was cut, and then trees grew back, and this block of wood is from one of those trees that grew back in that very first timber sale. And so we give those to special people.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Hey, Nance, we'll have you put your gifts down. You're not done yet. Come on up front still, please. Lindell, if you would join her up front here. Construction Manager Mike Cool, please.
I'm not as eloquent probably as some of these other guys speaking up here. I don't care to do this. Nancy forces me. Not this day. I'm doing it volunteering to do it. But what I think it's important to recognize both Nancy and Lindell's service in terms of the building committee. Both have served on the building committee. Nancy has served almost as long as I have been working for Pennington County on the building committee. It takes a huge amount of work and dedication and commitment of time to bring a project to create a new facility for Pennington County. So it is and for these guys and many on the building committee, I believe it's a labor of love in terms of seeing these things through. And I would like to recognize that they have the extra burden on them of having to be out in front of the public when these projects are brought forward and authorized. And so that is another portion of this that I think that they really need to be recognized, that this is often not an easy thing to say yes to a project. The easy thing to do is to say no to a project. And when they say that yes, you know, that is a difficult thing, and they're scrutinized for that. And I would like to recognize that. So on behalf of the building committee, I'll have to apologize for this. I'm having a couple of these photographs made for you. They were supposed to be done yesterday and they did not. So there's a couple of canvas prints like this. This is the original 1922 cornerstone laying ceremony for the county courthouse. And I think it's really a good representation of the building committee in general and the county, you know, our culture somewhat as well, and the history of Pennington County as well as civic pride in our institutions. So I'd like to give this to you guys temporarily. And thank you for your service and dedication to the building committee in Pennington County.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Nance?
I keep trying
You don't get to leave yet. John Kaiser, please, from Buildings and Grounds, from the Fairgrounds, please. Ron Jeffries, General Manager, Fairgrounds.
I was tasked with speaking a little bit about Lindell. Although my time at the fairgrounds hasn't been that extensive, it doesn't take you long to be there, to be in that atmosphere, to realize the impact that Lindell Peterson has made on not just the agricultural committee, but just the community in whole. He has been so intricate in the success of the fairgrounds, the stock show. He was the main reason why it's, we now have that arena open to the public to use. Your service in the legislature for 18 years and on the commission is deeply appreciated, and I can't thank you enough for, especially from my part, for helping me, especially coming on to this whole thing. Because it's been about 6 months, just so everybody knows, but you've been more than helpful. You've all been more than welcoming. Mrs. Troutman, same with you. You guys have been exceedingly helpful and make this an easy transition for me, and I am forever thankful. And we have something for you, but I'm going to let Ron do a little speech because he knows a lot more about everything than I do.
First of all, I wanted to say congratulations, Danny, on 27 years. Great service to the Pennington County. It'll be hard-pressed for the people to really understand the depth of all the projects you undertook to make sure that the fairgrounds and all of Pennington County was safe from fire. I appreciate that very much. Congratulations. So, Nancy, we've had a real fun run with Nancy serving on our board of directors while she's been on the Pennington County Commission. Nancy's always brought a fresh look to everything she does. She's been at all our meetings, and she's actually, unlike what sometimes happens, you have people that join your board and it's just one of those things that you're assigned to do as one of the projects within the county. When Nancy served on the board for the fairgrounds, she was deeply involved. She got in, she volunteered, even from things as small as putting together the parade committee and throwing candy to things as big as planning the remodel for the grandstands. It's been a great relationship that we've had. She's always had Pennington County and Central States Fair at the center of her heart. And I think that when I look at her career as a commissioner, the people of Pennington County are lucky to have somebody who did the homework and studied the budget and studied personnel and studied all the issues that came before them to make the right decision. Now, it's not always a popular decision, but I do believe in her heart and in mine, I think she's always made the right decision. And Nancy, on behalf of the Central States Fair Board of Directors, staff, and the hundreds of volunteers that work with Central States Fair, we want to thank you for all that you've done for all of Pennington County.
Andy, if you could bring the picture up on the screen. Then Holly, go ahead and give Mr. Lindell. John, if you want to read what's on the plaque for us, sir, or?
So this is it's probably the only thing that we found in the fairgrounds that's been there longer than you have.
John, I said sentimental.
It says, in honor of his diligent and lifelong commitment to public service and the citizens of Pennington County, the Pennington County Board of Commissioners and the Central States Fair Board dedicate this bench to Lindell Peterson with deep appreciation for his visionary guidance and unwavering leadership on behalf of the agricultural community. And it's dedicated this day, December 20th, 2016. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Lindell, there's a picture up there of your bench on the screen if you'd like to see the bigger version of it. That was awesome. Thank you. In closing, a few words of new beginnings bring a sense of freshness and possibility for the future and discoveries yet to be made. We here at Pennington County wish you all the best in your new beginnings and your future endeavors. Thanks, everyone. We will get back to our scheduled meeting. Thanks for all your help in this dedication today, folks. That's awesome. You're up, Lindell.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Holly?
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hennies, Commission Office Manager. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of December 6, 2016. Number 8 is to authorize Buildings and Grounds to award the bid and sign the contract on the LED lighting remodel project for the James Kerstad Event Center with a maximum of $300,000 coming from the accumulated building fund budget years 2016 and 2017 as submitted by the auditor. Number 9 is approval of the Emergency Management Performance Grant 2016 subaward agreement with the state of South Dakota as submitted by Emergency Management. Number 10 is to declare surplus for the purpose of trade an Aeroflex IFR 2975 digital service monitor as submitted by Emergency Services Communications Center. Number 11 is to recognize and thank the volunteers for the month of November 2016 as submitted by Human Resources. And finally, number 12 is to approve the 2017 Pennington County Animal Shelter / Control Agreement with the Humane Society of the Black Hills as submitted by the Sheriff.
Does anyone wish any of the consent agenda items removed?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like number 8.
Number 8. Any others?
Number 9.
Number 9. Any other items from the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion?
I'd move approval of the consent agenda with the exception of number 8 and number 9.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
Mr. Chairman, on number 8, I'm sure this is going to jeopardize my chances of getting an award from the Central States Fair when I retire. But we are being asked to...
excuse me.
We have to vote on the...
We need to vote on the motion
Oh,
before we move to number 8.
okay, sorry.
Any,
And I had a great speech all lined up.
Well, you just got a little practice in.
okay,
Vote practice.
there are no further comments on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, now.
Okay. It looks to me like we're being asked to approve a bid award that we haven't even had yet. Is that correct?
Scheduled for the 28th.
So we're going to open it on the 28th, but we're going to approve it on the 20th.
No, you're going to the motion would be to authorize Buildings and Grounds to award the bid and sign the contract on the lighting remodel project.
And then above that, it says the bid is scheduled for opening on December 28th. So we're going to authorize signature and award before we even open it.
You're authorizing the Buildings and Grounds, if you so desire, to make that determination and proceed.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on item 8?
Mr. Chair, the memo from the auditor says, after checking with DLA. Who's DLA?
Department of Legislative Audit.
So those folks say that we can proceed with this remodel project quickly. Was that what was presented to them, to DLA?
This project was not in the 2016 budget. We did the supplement. We're working and concentrating on getting that supplement done to encumber the funds before the end of the year, and we in the auditor's office didn't think about the bid award, so we checked with them procedurally to find out if the board could authorize the Buildings and Grounds Director on that project to award the bid.
And DLA give you a reference, a source for that opinion?
I did not speak with DLA directly, Julie did, but I'm sure that they did.
Mr. Chair, another question. What's the cutoff for when we have to open the bids? I haven't found that statute, and I apologize, but what is the limit? I know the 2 or 3 or 4 of the $10 million projects, we've opened the bids. But
Mr. Chair,
excuse me,
I was going to help you with that.
The question is to the auditor.
There's a bid limit of 50,000. Anything under that.
But Mike
But
has
that
more.
there's buildings, yeah, I mean, there's contracts over that are approved in their budget. We have.
My question is
We have
what-
garbage contracts and things like that.
My question
that we
is,
don't bring to
at
the board.
what bid opening level do we, the board, have to open?
I'm not aware that there's any,
We've had 2 special meetings for opening bids, highway, and I forget the other one, but we've had special meetings to open the bids, to hurry this stuff along at the $1 million level. So you don't know the statute, you don't know the threshold.
cannot answer that question.
No surprise. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think that part of the of the help that George might need is that we as a commission in the past have set a limit on what the amount is that Buildings and Grounds superintendent could approve. And I think that's what he's trying to figure out. We don't have a statute, but we have a decision that was made long before I became a commissioner of what Mike can approve.
But those are in his approved budget. The reason why we asked particularly about
Right.
DLA is because this is not the Buildings and Grounds budget. It's coming out of accumulated building, and so procedurally, we've asked the question to make sure we had all our ducks in a row as we moved forward, and it was their recommendation, have a special meeting, have the board authorize them to proceed, or you can reschedule it for another time.
Mr. Chair, my basic question is at what level, I'll back up, we had at least one special meeting to open bids. A special meeting just opened bids. So what is that statutory level? And it can't be an arbitrary, it can't be an arbitrary number, there has to be some.
Mr.
I
Chair.
go back to the 50,000, Commissioner Farabee, that when anything over that is bid, that's the statute that we look at as we audit them. As far as the numbers over that, there's many contracts that come before the board, of course, because of the large dollars. I don't think the board wants us bringing trash renewal and those kind of contracts. Can't think of some of the other departmental ones. There's many of them.
Roof replacement, he's done over
Mr.
300,000.
But I was trying to even think of some of the other departments.
According to the Rapid City Journal, the bid opening will be the 28th. Are we going to have a special meeting on the 28th?
This motion would not require that.
Anything further?
One more comment. Obviously, this is another hurry-up job. The taxpayers of Pennington County ought to be really disappointed in their commission to rush stuff along without regard to their pocketbooks. No. We are, by statute, we are to superintend the fiscal concerns of the county. We, this board, we're not doing a very good job. Thank you.
Commissioner, or Mr. Chair, number one, it's not rushed along. This has been about 2 years looking at this lighting. Number two, Buildings and Grounds has been involved with John Kaiser the whole time. It was decided for Mr. Peterson to do this because that's what he does for Buildings and Grounds. That's what we rely on him for, and we spend without authorization in Buildings and Grounds for our buildings, which these are our buildings, over 300,000. For roofs, for replacement of boilers, for everything else. So if you'd like to change that, where you say Buildings and Grounds has to come to us for everything or a certain amount, we can do that. but this has been done before, so it's not rushed. If you've been at the meetings or you've been listening, this 300,000 was authorized by this board already. So, the comment's been made, that's fine, but some of us have actually went to the meetings and been involved, so we know how the process works. And I trust Mr. Peterson that he can figure this out, because he's been working on it for 2 years with John Kaiser. So, if
Well,
you don't.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that, Deb. I've been here 27 years, so I do know how the process works.
Thank you, sir.
And I know one of the processes that I don't like to have work is to okay $300,000 contracts and bids without looking at them and knowing what they are.
Anything further?
Mr. Chair, I make a substitute, well, the motion hasn't been made. I'll make a substitute motion after the motion.
Why don't you just make a motion, George?
I make a motion that we, the Board of Commissioners, vote after the bid opening on the 28th of December. Sometime after the 28th of December, we, the Board of Commissioners, should vote on whether or not to award the bid.
Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Anything further?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't second that because I don't think it's necessary to have a special meeting, which we would have had. I think it can be delayed to the first meeting in January with no harm to anybody.
Anything further? What's your wish?
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize Buildings and Grounds to award the bid and sign the contract on the LED lighting remodel project for the James Kerstead Events Center with a maximum of $300,000 coming from the accumulated building fund in budget years 2016 and 17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a substitute motion.
That is?
We, the Board of Commissioners, vote on whether or not to award the bid on January 3rd of 2017.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, and a substitute motion, and a second. Discussion on the substitute motion. Roll call vote.
Buskerud?
Yes.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
No.
Troutman?
No.
And Peterson?
No. Motion failed. Back to the original motion. Any further comments? We'll do a roll call on that.
Buskerud?
No.
Farabee?
No.
Hadcock?
Aye.
Troutman?
Aye.
And Peterson?
Aye. Motion carried. Item 9. Thank you, KJ. Item 9.
As I usually do, I pull the item to vote against it. Grants are a swear word to me unless they come from a private individual or private concern. So I'll be voting no on the grant.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to remind the public that if we don't accept grants, which were originally tax money, and we have to still provide the service as we do in emergency management, then we would have to raise taxes in order to cover that expense. So to use that kind of logic doesn't make sense because the original grant was based on tax money. And then if my taxes are raised again because we turned down a grant, that means I paid for it twice.
Anything further?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, I shouldn't have to remind Commissioner Troutman that this nation is something like 20 trillion in debt.
Totally.
Large part of that is grants. And obviously, the feds handed out some chicken feed along with their mandates. This is chicken feed. Grants are swear words to me, government grants.
So
Thank you.
are subsidies, Commissioner Farabee, are those chicken scratch, or isn't that what you got for your ranch, your farm? That's different than this grant? Is that what you're saying, Commissioner Farabee? That what you do is different than what this commission does? You have a double standard, sir.
Mr. Chair, she's out of order. She has no proof of what she's saying.
We've heard you admit to it.
Okay, the item before us is the approval of my signature, the chair's signature, on the Emergency Management Program Grant Subaward Agreement that identifies our additional funding in the amount of $5,010.81 that is allotted to Pennington County. Do we have a motion relative to this issue?
I move approval, sir.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything further? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item is item 13, items from Health and Human Services, the welfare guideline revisions.
Good morning, Barry Tice, the Director of Pennington County Health and Human Services. And with me I have Charlene Dorn, the Assistant Director for Economic and Medical Assistance. And we thought of the last meeting of the year, we would bring the Pennington County Poor Relief Guidelines forward because they're so entertaining to look at. As you saw in your packet of information, there's a number of pieces that go with this. These guidelines had not been fully revised since 1991. We've taken the time really over the past 6 months to revise these guidelines. As you may have noticed in that packet, there was just a number of verbiage changes. The appendices were removed so that that information is now consolidated within those guidelines. A lot of the information that was included in the old guidelines was processes for our caseworkers on how to get to a determination of eligibility that really should have been in its own manual, which it now is. So it's a process and procedures guidelines for our caseworkers, separate from the poor relief guidelines. This information is sometimes asked for by clients if if a determination is made and they reference these guidelines for how the determination was made. Of course, there were some grammatical errors in the old guidelines, and the new ones have been adjusted with that. We had the State's Attorney's Office, Michelle Hoffman, take a peek at these just to make sure we were on the right track. A lot of what economic and medical assistance is determined by is what the state laws also say we must follow. So with that, we brought this forward because in January we'd like to start with a new, fresh set of guidelines. And as I said, since it's been 25 years, it was time that those be revised. I guess I would ask for any questions with those documents. Each county, and I guess I should back up a second, each county in South Dakota should have their own set of guidelines. Obviously, it's important as just the reference for employees. And so it's required that the commission puts their stamp of approval on these guidelines when they're totally revised. So that's why we stand in front of you today.
And these guidelines will make sure that there is consistency, so that there's no dispute. So every individual that comes through our doors, we follow the same set of guidelines and making those determinations. So that consistency is very important.
Any questions by the commission?
I do, Mr. Chairman. In your letter or your memo, it says, minor increase to rent assistance amounts was completed to reflect the current rental market, et cetera. In the future, a yearly increase of 5% would ensure we adhere to the local standards. That's your recommendation for us in the future. That's not in these guidelines, correct? Correct. Okay.
Mr. Chair, in that vein, unfortunately, we do have inflation, and we're probably getting ready to roll again. But those, anywhere you have numbers, shouldn't those have some qualification to be adjusted for inflation?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you
Can you
said.
pull your mic down,
Any
Commissioner
place
Farabee?
where you have numbers, one person up to 240 for, I guess that's housing assistance. Shouldn't those numbers, or shouldn't it be a qualifier that be adjusted for inflation?
And I'm sorry, to answer Ron's question and
sorry about that.
Commissioner Buskerud's question and Commissioner Farabee's question, the numbers referenced in here where it says one person up to 240, 2 to 3 people to 300, that has the adjusted amount since 1982. So in 1991. In 1991, when those rent amounts were adopted, at that time it was $190.
I understand.
And so we've gone with the averages over the past 7 years to see what the average amount of assistance is, which is about $211 per person that comes into our office. The average per household. The average rental unit in Rapid City is right around $600. And so these increases are minimal, although there was a little bit of a jump with them because it's been 25 years since these numbers have been adjusted. So to reference the question about the 5%, that's our suggested amount that if we want to stay on track with whatever's happening in the economy each year, if we adjusted those by 5%, then we wouldn't see this large jump if we wait another 15 years to do it. Commissioner Farabee, I don't know if that touched on your question at all or not.
No, and if this document's updated annually, then you can update but if this is a document for the next 5 to 10 years, then there should be a qualifier in there for inflation. If you update it every year, you take care of it that way. But if you don't update it every year, then
sure,
it should be adjusted for inflation.
Mr. Chair, so wouldn't you want, I mean, this is your base for moving forward, correct? It's updated now, we're moving forward, and every year there are changes in the state legislature that you really need to change in these guidelines that are going to affect the guidelines. So it would seem practical for me, and perhaps this will help Commissioner Farabee's concern, if you are updating to reflect the changes that are decided in peer, not here, that would also be appropriate to update these figures as you see fit. Some years you may not have to update them.
And I think another thing to keep in mind is when we were doing this, we were taking a look at Pennington County housing, the low income for the folks in our community. We also got figures from those individuals as to what they are paying for a single person, 2-person household. And that adjusts every year as well. For us to actually be able to know exactly what those percentages are going to be every year, we can't know that. We know that they go up. So when we put in that suggested 5%, we went with that based on the fact, looking at history on another agency that is doing a similar type of thing, yet it's completely different from what we do. Trying to stay on track with the changing times, the increase in rent, we don't want to fall this significantly behind again. It's 25 years at $190 when our rents have more than doubled, probably tripled in those 25 years. And that overall increase for a single-person household is we're looking at roughly $50 for that initial increase to get us brought up to where, it's a little more realistic with what's happening in our economy. And from that point on, if we do just a little bit every year, whatever, and we've suggested a 5%, that perhaps we can stay with the changing times on that.
Mr. Chair, the only other thing is, and Director Tyson and I have talked about, briefly about Appendix I, which is United States District Court case, Kelly Spradling, it's et al. And versus Pennington County, and we'll give me a copy of that so I can
Sure.
can read it.
Can I
Yeah,
bring this to you now?
And the issue is how much did that court case ding Pennington County for doing something or not doing something? And anyway, thank you, Barry.
Sure. And let me touch on this a little bit, is yesterday when Commissioner Fairby asked about that specific court case, the initial way to figure out what happened with that court case is, of course, you go to Google and you can go to district court and try to access that information. Couple issues with that. It's a court case from 1982, and so getting a 1982 court case, which was, I had contacted the state's attorney's office to look into this a little bit further, to ask for their assistance. The original document is held in a federal warehouse in, I don't know what city. To access it, we'd have to pay for it. And what we found out in digging through old files within my office is this court case was in 1982 is really what established why we needed internal guidelines within our office. If you look at this document, it talks about there being questions about how decisions were made, and I say how decisions were made because there was no guidelines. If an individual came into our office and was determined ineligible, we had nothing to go by, and that's why it's so important to have these guidelines in place and approved so that each person who comes into our office, there's a consistent way of determining eligibility. I don't know if that helps answer that question. It really is, because we have these guidelines now, and they were revised in 1990, and now we've gave them another revision in 2016. We're adhering to anything that happened in a court decision in 1982, because this court decision, at that time, there was no guidelines. And so it's really, it doesn't impact what we're doing now, because these items are written into the guidelines. We're following state law, and they're referenced within those.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And bottom line is apparently in 1982, 81, whenever Pennington County was sued by these folks, and they wound up in the stipulation, and apparently that's the result is the guidelines. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I want to thank people like you in your department who took that decision in 1982 and realized they needed to have guidelines. And now you are continuing forward, trying to keep those guidelines fair and up to date. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the Pennington County Poor Relief Guidelines as presented.
There's- We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlene.
Thank you.
Okay, item 14, Air Quality Liaison, Community at-Large member appointed by the commission. And in your packet, we have two applicants.
I'll make a motion to approve Ron Weifenbach for the Air Quality Liaison.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
We'll make a substitute motion to appoint Kenneth Jasper to the Air Quality Board.
We have a substitute motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. All in favor of the motion at hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Mr. Weifenbach is appointed. Okay, next item is item 15, a request for authority for adoption of code of conduct for county commissioners. Mr. Jasper.
Is your attorney here, George? Commissioner Farabee?
I don't see the agenda petitioner, no.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
so-
I would move to just remove that item from the agenda, whatever we need to do so we can move on.
Busker, do you want to?
What would be the correct?
I can give I mean, maybe should have a second before.
Is there a second? I'll second it.
I can give him my opinion of what it is, and so we can get it off the agenda and not have him keep coming back meeting after meeting and then not show up when he's supposed to be here. My opinion is that we put on the minutes that it's SDCL 7-8-19, and he can figure out what it means, because he's an attorney.
Is that a substitute motion?
That's my substitute motion.
To just,
Is there a second to that?
Could you read that for me, Mr. Busker, please?
It's SDCL 7-8-19, and the rest of it was, since Mr. Jasper's an attorney, he can figure out what it means. That's what he gets paid for.
Is there a second?
second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
Well, let's say it up straight. Commissioner Farabee sent his lawyer to come up and ask about code of conduct for county commissioners because he got reprimanded. Maybe he disagrees. And I guess here's what the code of ethics says. It says, we will adhere to the highest ethical standards. We will be caretakers of the we will be caretakers of the public trust in all actions related to employment. We will provide the highest level of service to all citizens and customers. We will adhere to applicable laws and regulations. We will be fair to and respectful of fellow employees. We will be accountable and responsible for all personal actions. We will value diversity in the community and workplace. We will support Pennington County as a drug-free, alcohol-free, and violence-free workplace. This code of ethics is for all Pennington County employees, and I believe it also relates to this board. And unfortunately, some people with common sense can't figure that out, so they get reprimanded because of how they treat and how they have treated employees. You were reprimanded, George. That's the bottom line. Let's say it up straight. You're questioning, I believe, your reprimand, not the authority, because you did not use your code of ethics of common sense of how to treat the planning department.
Okay, we have a substitute motion that is the active motion at this point.
Yes.
Does anyone wish the motion repeated?
Please.
The substitute motion was to cite SDCL 7-8-19 as the reason for the code of conduct.
Okay, anything further on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Substitute motion prevails. Item 16.
Good morning, KJ Peterson, Chief Deputy Auditor. We have a posted hearing for budget supplement, general fund state's attorney's budget in the amount of $20,000. This being related to expected expenses in the passing of Marcy's Law for this year, 2016.
Any questions or comments?
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman. You know, since I'm the one who made this motion, and since, I don't know how many, out of the 9 people this morning, 5 of them were from the state's attorney's office. You know, since we made that motion and since we've talked about it, the Attorney General has come out with a clarification of what Marcy's Law really, in his opinion, says. And I'm not so sure I wouldn't like the state's attorney to come back in and clarify just how many people he really does need, because it looks to me like, and I'm sure our presiding judge doesn't care to comment on it unless he really wants to, but I think it wasn't as onerous, in his opinion, in the Attorney General's opinion, as what we may have thought in the beginning. And I'm not sure we need all those people and all that money. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And that, of course, Attorney General is just another lawyer. But
I'll second that motion.
Then a motion.
It was not a motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Craig Pfeifley, presiding judge, thank you for invoking my name, Commissioner Buskerud. I will, for the record, indicate that I know there is a disagreement between the Office of the Attorney General, the Office of the Pennington County State's Attorney, and other state's attorneys as to their responsibilities under the new constitutional amendment. The judiciary are the ones that are going to end up making that determination, so I don't feel comfortable commenting on specifics as it relates to the amendment, because those will be presented to us for interpretation. But I do think it's fair to let the commission know that there is, throughout the state, at least some differing interpretations as to whether or not certain things need to happen. Attorney General's office has issued an opinion. I know some state's attorneys have other thoughts. I will, I think, in fairness to your state's attorney, suggest that one of the reasons that he is making the calls that he's making is in an effort to help the county avoid potential liability. So I think, in fairness, that needs to be stated for you folks for your consideration here today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I might, Judge.
You interrupted me, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment on what you said about all the new people in the state's attorney's office. Most of them were a replacement, weren't they? Yeah, so it's not like they're getting 5 new people. Those are replacement for folks that have moved to different areas.
But what it meant was, what did we authorize them? 4 new people last time?
And I think.
I don't know if these were the ones.
No.
Are they the
No.
4 that are they hired now?
Michelle, do you
And
know?
so do we
those
need
are-
them, so do we need the money? That's.
They are hired, they are working.
Mhm.
I believe they all
The
started
two,
sometime in
there's two.
the last few weeks.
The 2 attorney positions I know are replacing individuals who have moved on to other positions.
Who passed away.
Okay.
So we may not need all the money then. These are replacements and not new. Not new. Anyway, my question if I might, for the judge is.
Go ahead.
Since this circuit is more than Pennington County, I know Pennington County thinks it's all the 7th Circuit, but what are the other 2 state's attorneys, what are those counties saying to you?
I haven't heard any indication, Commissioner, that they have a direct position either in agreement with the Attorney General or in agreement with some of the other state's attorneys across the state. I don't have a good answer for that.
At this point, no feedback or no input?
And part of the reason is, again, I'm not asking for that because I think informal conversations as to their position places our judges in some jeopardy in terms of hearing those cases. I just do know from public comment that there is at least a divergence of opinion between some individuals as to their obligations under the amendment.
I understand, and in that vein, don't you think that Peer might have some standardized as much as possible, some standardized reaction to all this?
Well, this is a constitutional amendment, and eventually the interpretation of the constitutional amendment will be left to the courts.
In view of all this, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to approve the supplement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the
Yeah,
motion.
in the words of Representative Pelosi, let's pass this and then we'll figure out what it means afterwards.
So that's what happened.
And just as a reminder, of course, we put the supplement in at the 20,000. Obviously, if only 10 of it's spent, it remains and goes back to the general fund at the end of the year, which we're rapidly approaching.
Thank you, Ms. KJ.
And Mr. Chair, before we vote, I'd like for the four of you to look at the back sheet of this memo where it has cash analysis. You'd all look back there down towards the bottom, it says additional taxes from stored CPI, 1.785 million. Now, I tried to call the auditor to see if that was a mistake in this handout or what, but it still bothers me that we're probably going to hit the taxpayer more than what we agreed to in the budget.
Mr. Chair.
1.785 million in this handout.
Mr. Chair, may I remind Commissioner Farabee, if he would just listen to what happens in those budget hearings, that overall we are dropping at 1.9. We are not raising at 9.8. Overall, we have dropped taxes for the upcoming year. Although I'm sure you're going to say that's a lie, but it's not.
Mr. Chair, this piece of paper says additional taxes from stored CPI is 1.785.
You're only giving part.
Okay. The motion is made and seconded. Any further comments relative to the motion?
Commissioner Farabee, you have not voted, and you voted no for the whole budget, so anything you say, you pretty much didn't vote for anything in the first place, whether it was saving or expanding, sir.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I make a motion to approve the renewal of the alcohol beverage license for Rimrock Event Center.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item B. Any further comment? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item C.
Item C is the likelihood of an overdrawn budget, the A&N budget for the courts at the end of the year. It's slightly overdrawn after paying bills that were submitted today, around 27. We have $100, and we have the year-end bills yet to process, rather than have a special meeting to do a supplement, which would require motion today and a meeting before the end of the year. The $13,320 that is remaining in the contingency fund, we're recommending that we authorize a transfer to that budget for 2016. The circuit court budget is in plenty safe spending authority, so we shouldn't have any problems there. We did address an increase for 2017 with some potential large cases that could be, and we're hopeful that when we get to 17, we won't have this issue. It's been kind of historically, it's an unknown for the courts, the state's attorney, the public defender, but at least to address the likelihood of the remaining expenditures for 2016, we'd recommend a contingency transfer in that amount to the A&N budget.
That'd be my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 17.
Good morning, Commissioner Shannon Rittberger, Director of Equalization.
Morning.
You have a request for an abatement in front of you. It is very simple, a mobile home moved out of Pennington County in 2012. We need to abate the 2015 taxes. The previous years back to 2012 have already been abated. This is just 2015.
Move approval of the abatement application for City of Box Elder.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
Well, Mr. Chair, I guess I'll have to ask what happened to the other 3 or 4 years.
They were abated.
He already told you.
We,
When we discovered the mobile home was gone, we brought an abatement request before the commission then, but we failed to anticipate that the coming year also needed to be abated. We're doing it now.
we missed this for about 3 years. To 2012 to 3 tax years we missed.
13, 14, and 15, missed it, but it wasn't in the county. It shouldn't have been on the tax roll. Now, the owner of the mobile home did what was proper. He acquired a moving permit, but the moving permit was acquired in Todd County. It took us then a while to discover it was gone.
Anything further? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Okay, item 18.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Wellesley, Highway Department. Bringing forward to you the U.S. Forest Service Agreement Number 17RO112020300007.
Would you repeat that?
Do I have to, please? Leave it to the federal government to give us numbers this long. For crushing of gravel stockpiled, Copper Mountain Quarry. Pennington County Highway Department is wishing to crush gravel in the Copper Mountain pit near Hill City, South Dakota. We will accomplish this with the above referenced agreement with the Forest Service. Forest Service is wanting to also crush $100,000 worth of gravel and 6-inch aggregate. The Highway Department wishes to crush 30,000 tons of 3/4-inch gravel surfacing, meeting the DOT specifications. Anticipated cost for this 30,000 tons is in the $145,000 range. This is included in our 2017 budget.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
Mr. Chair, the numbers don't reconcile unless I'm looking at this thing wrong. Got 145,000 on page 1, and then on page 3, or page 2 of 7, you got 157,500.
The 157 was in error.
Pardon me?
No, we feel that the 157 was in error. We anticipated more at the 145. They figured strong.
So who made the error?
It was numbers that we worked on together with us and the Forest Service.
Okay.
We anticipate the 145.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 19.
Good morning, PJ Conover, Planning Department Director. Item 19 is agreement for professional services between Pennington County and Matrix Design Groups. What you should have had in your packet is the latest contract from Matrix Design Group. It has gone through 2 staff reviews and 3 trips up to the state's attorney's office, and we believe that this is the final product. You'll notice that the estimated amount did increase from the original amount by $21,000, and that's a direct result from comments from the board for additional meetings. So they are proposing to do the work for $135,738, which is over $10,000 below what we have budgeted now for this project. So what we're looking for is a motion for approval for the chair to sign the contract.
That would be my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
Well, Mr. Chair, this growth of 21,000, where'd that come from again?
That was a direct result from comments from the commission of asking for more public meetings. So not only for the public meetings, but then it's additional printings and stuff like that that come along with it. They quoted how much it would be when it was originally brought up at the first 2 times.
This was which commission? This commission or the planning commission?
Board of Commissioners. I believe you were in attendance.
I don't recall I missed any meetings. I guess I must have missed that. Another comment, Mr. Chair, $225,000 bucks an hour for program director. and
25,000.
$225 an hour for the program director and $185 for the project manager. That seems pretty heavy to me.
Anything further? We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, sir.
I'm on the next one.
Next item is item 20, planning and zoning.
Yep.
Agenda.
Motion, we take a 14-minute break.
The consent agenda only, unless you guys can pull anything.
There might be somebody that'll object to it.
Second.
Can we take a 5-minute break anyway? I don't care if we take a break or not, I'm going to.
I seconded it.
All right, we gotta talk
I'm
10:30
fine, too.
anyway.
Start at 10:30. Are we okay with that, Lindell?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye, okay.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And item 20.
PJ Conover, Planning Director, item 20. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion in the vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at a request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. Item A, Plan Unit Development Review 0509 for Richard Circle, and approval has been recommended. Item B, Plan Unit Development Review 0604 for Cheyenne River Ranchettes, and approval has been recommended. Item C, second reading of rezone 1611 and Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1608 for LLB Investments Limited Partnerships, Russ Rierick as the agent. Approval has been recommended. Item D, second reading of rezone 1612 and Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1609 from Stromer Properties LLC, Brooke Stromer. Approval has been recommended.
Does anyone wish any of the items on the consent agenda removed?
Number C.
Any others? Do we have a motion?
Move approval of the consent agenda with C being taken out.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
I just have a question on C, on page 6 of 8. Down under J, B. This is a comment from Rapid City Public Works. The property is located in the DENR Identified Sensitive Aquifer Recharge Zone. Any idea what that means?
No, Commissioner, you asked that question last meeting as well.
Do you have an answer?
No, I do not. Did not request one.
Anything further? Do we have a motion?
Move approval of item C.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 21. Items from the chair and commission members. As chairman, I think it would be worthwhile for us to hear from our treasurer. I sat through the tax certificate sale yesterday. On behalf of Pennington County, the treasurer and her assistant did a great job. And I think it's worthy of being talked about.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
And Merry Christmas. I'm Janet Saylor, the County Treasurer. This is just information for the Commissioners. We sent out our delinquent tax notices on November 7th of this year. There were 4,218 that were unpaid for an amount of $5,505,899.99. Interest amount for those was $115,137.43. We advertised in the paper, the County Courier, the Rapid City Journal, the Hill City Prevailer. Just for the Commissioners' information, the Rapid City Journal did do a different article on December 15th due to a header error on the first advertisement. We held our tax certificate sale yesterday, and when it started, we started with 1,038 unpaid properties amounting to $1,745,849.12. There were 243 certificates sold. We had 10 registered bidders, 8 that purchased. There was a total of certificates sold for $952,060.53. However, this morning, we have sold 59 more tax certificates, which we would call an assignment because the sale's over, for an additional $287,000. So the total for the certificate sale as of this morning is $239,898.02. And we had 59 that we could not sell yesterday, and the owner, we got a check for those today. So we're only like $138,000 difference from what we sold yesterday from last year.
Ms. Saylor, where does the money come from, go to once we've collected it for those tax deeds?
It's apportioned out, just like we apportion out every other tax we collect. It's just that the certificate is sold.
Okay.
The only thing they're doing is paying the property taxes, keeping them current for 3 years, and it gets apportioned to the schools, the city,
There
the
you go.
county. It's just that we get our money faster when we hold a certificate sale, and that was per motion of the Board of Commissioners to continue to hold those sales.
But for all the entities that collect taxes, we also, that's one more thing that we do for property taxes and don't collect all the money for that and get 26% again. So I appreciate everything you do, Ms. Saylor and your department.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments from commission members? Committee reports.
Mr. Chairman, last week I went to South Dakota Board of County Commissioners, Board of Directors meeting in Pierre. I've got some material here that I'll leave with Holly for the reading file about what their budget was last year, how they spent money, what their budget is next year. The biggest thing coming up, and it's what we're going to pay our executive director. And some people wanted to give him a healthy raise, and I complained about that, and so now it got put on March's meeting. So I'm hanging in there pretty tough. Right now he makes $90,000, and I think that's plenty. The commissioner on the board from Hughes County is going to check with what various people in the state are making, because it's in Pierre. I thought that'd be fairly representative of what that kind of position should be paid. And I'm sure they'll find out that that's plenty of money. So that's where we're at. I held it off for a while. And I'm not the only one. I think the board is probably pretty well evenly divided, so. Otherwise, there's some other stuff here about Marcy's Law, an opinion on that. Also going to try to get a bill through the the townships on large and small culverts. Who pays for them? And they're trying to get a bill through where we can get a little more money given to the county, although we will just pass it through to the townships to pay for culverts. Mainly the ones that we are responsible for in townships. And so it'll be a plus to us, but it's got to go through the Highway Commission first, so I'm not sure where that's going. But I'll leave this stuff for Holly. She can put it in our reading file, or if you want a copy, you can do that. It's kind of interesting.
How much more do they want?
Who?
The executive director, how much were they looking at?
$5,000.
Any idea what the city counterpart gets?
No, I tried to find that out, and I have asked the wrong people so far, but I will find that out.
Okay.
Yvonne probably makes pretty good money. She's a pretty good,
She's pretty awesome.
pretty awesome lobbyist. And well, there are, and we also have an assistant, and they want to give her a bunch of money because she is now the executive director of the county officials, and she's got so many more responsibilities. Of course, my comeback to that was, yeah, and we've hired 2 part-time people to help her. So, is she doing any more or less? And she makes 60 grand. So frankly, I think they're making enough money.
Is the city gal a lone operator, or does she have assistants?
Oh, she probably has assistants too. I wouldn't doubt it. Municipal League probably, they're more influential than the counties are, I can tell you that. Mainly because of the lobbyists.
Well, hang in there.
Trying to keep, they want to raise our dues, not much, but a little bit. And I was the only one that voted against that. So, feel good, guys. I don't vote no just here. I vote no all over.
And there's how many on the board?
12.
Yeah. And it's a prorated vote or equal vote?
Equal vote. Well, sort of. There's about 8 districts throughout this, Upper Missouri, Southeast, and then Minnehaha and Pennington each have their own representative. So we really have 2. We got the Black Hills Association representative and Pennington County.
So it's kind of weighted that way?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Well, hang in there.
Any other committee reports?
Mr. Chair, I've been on the Fairgrounds Board all year. This year has been a positive for us. We ended up getting $550,000 from the city. I appreciate that through their vision funds and the committee that had decided that the fairgrounds was worth putting time and money into. It brings in taxpayer dollars. It helps the rural community bring forward many of their events that a lot of us city folks don't see a lot. And that is like their gem for a lot of the people that are in the outlying areas as well as around the different states for their events. So we appreciate that. Again, we have improved some of the buildings through putting cement in there, buildings for storage. We got a free air conditioner from the city, or the county. We had replaced one that we needed to have bigger in another building, in our county building, so we use that. So we do recycle at the fairgrounds. We use a lot of stuff from buildings and grounds that was used, and we bring it to the fairgrounds, so we are being very exponential with our funding. And thank you again for the lighting. It's going to make a huge difference. That 550 is going to be used for stalling, so we do need to improve the lighting in the fairgrounds. That's going to be huge. We appreciate this board's support all year. Let's see what that fairgrounds can do for the future, because I believe what we've just done is a huge positive for Rapid City and Pennington County and the rural folks. So thank you again, board, for your time and energy. And Mr. Peterson, Mr. Cool, trust them with what they do. They've been working with us for 2 years. That's why this also has come to pass. They are dedicated to doing their work on buildings and grounds throughout our county, and they have done an awesome job moving this along. And that's why I'd like to thank them, and again, Nancy and Liddell, for your support of the fairgrounds and what you have done for us, George and Buskerud, I hope we can convince you in the future that everything that we have done is worthwhile and worth putting the money in from Pennington County. So I appreciate this whole board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nancy?
I guess I don't have anything to say.
Holy cow. Just kidding.
I know, it's a shocker.
Commissioner Farabee?
Nothing at this point.
I would comment on the city-county meetings that we've been having. I think the productivity of that activity is very commendable. We have involved the city of Box Elder, city of Rapid City, Pennington County, and right now the focus is on Valley Heights in terms of some of the factors involved there. It's a situation where that particular location has been impacted by the city of Box Elder, the city of Rapid City, Pennington County, and the complexity of the circumstances out there are such that working together through planning and zoning and the other entities, the possibility of avoiding some serious problems out there in the future rests, I think, with that group. And so I hope that continues in a positive way.
Mr. Chair, if just a moment of privilege, I think you call it. I appreciate everything that you guys have done, you and Miss Nancy Lindell, for our county, for our state, in many different areas. And I know our board is going to miss everything, and our employees are going to miss everything that you have done for them and that positive teamwork that you have played in Pennington County for all of us. We appreciate you, and we're always here for you guys, and you know that already. But I can't say it enough that 9 years, Ms. Nancy, 6 years on this board, Lindell, and how many years? 18 years in the legislature. That's a lot of time and commitment to the citizens of Pennington County and Rapid City. That's huge. And the difference that these two have made for us. And I always say the difference between a politician and a public servant is a public servant gets things done. These two have been above and beyond that word of public servant. So we appreciate them with our deepest heartfelt thanks for everything you guys have done for us in Pennington County and Rapid City. So good luck to your futures. I know it's going to be awesome because you two can't sit still very well, even at your early age of 25. But thank you for all your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anything further? If not, we'll move on to item 23, which is the vouchers.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the vouchers as presented in the amount of $2,394,702.47.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item is items from the public. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to address the commission? Come forward, please.
If you feel the love, then we will let you speak. Oh, I'm not supposed to speak, sorry.
Good morning to you. I am Russ Rurick. I work at Coldwell Banker. I'm a licensed realtor. And I'm here to just tell you, thank you for what you do for us in the public. Times people don't understand how hard you people work and or show gratitude, because it's a tough job. And so thank you very much. Second, I want to really congratulate the county planning board because PJ and his staff helped us tremendously in just understanding how the system works and the process. And when we had a little bit of kickback, he showed us how to solve that problem. And, you know, very professional people, very knowledgeable, want to help you, and you should feel really lucky to have a staff like they have upstairs. Jerry upstairs, the right-hand gal up there, holy smokes. I don't know how many times I have had to make a call, and she's just always ready to take action. And that's my favorite word, I guess, take action. My 17-year-old says, Dad, someday we're going to put take action on your tombstone. Well, you know what? I think that's the way life is, and you know, those people upstairs take action. You folks take action, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good day.
Anyone else from the public who wishes to address the commission? We have no need for executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
No, I get to.
I'm sorry. Never mind.
Oh, wait a minute. We'll draw names as to who gets to make the adjournment motion.
Let me check the Bible first. I'm sorry, that's a vet thing.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Go ahead, Lindell.
Died for lack of a second.
Second.
We did get a second?
I will. Can I?
You're
Nancy,
loud.
Can I second it?
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.